Hello everyone, welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to build a chatbot compare model playground where you're going to be able to test two different models. So you're going to have one prompt at the bottom, and the prompt that we type in here is going to be sent to model A and model B. Now you can pick and choose different models, and then you can see the response for each one of the models in a conversation. And we're going to be able to compare the two different models with the prompt that we provide. Also on the side, we're going to have our sidebar where we're going to have the parameters, where we're going to have like the temperature and the different options that we might have for our playground. And if you've seen my previous videos, I'm going to drop the links in the description because you haven't seen them. We built a basic chatbot for the first video. In the second one, we built another one with the same sidebar with the same parameters. So we're going to kind of like build on top of those previous videos, so that way our knowledge of building different chatbots and playgrounds are going to keep growing all together. So to get started, you need to make sure you have Python, of course, and you can download Python from python.org if you don't have that. And I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code that you can also download if you want to follow along as well. Now for building this chatbot, we're going to be using the same technologies we used for the previous two videos. And if you didn't watch those two videos, it's not a requirement. It will be helpful if you build two basic ones, and then now you have one that can compare two different ones. But those technologies are going to be Streamlit, which is going to help us build the UI. So we have different components that are going to help us build a simple more complex design of a UI. And then we're going to be using Groq Cloud, which is a free API that is going to allow you to use different models, and they have different models available here. So we're going to need an API key, so you need your account already accessible for the Groq Cloud. So you can go to groq.com in order to sign up for free. And the documentation for Streamlit is going to be in docs.streamlit.io. And you can also click the links in the video description. All right, so let's start by navigating to where we want to create our project folder. I'm just going to create it right here on my desktop. So I'm going to right click and create a new folder here. I'm going to call this one compare or just chatbot _ compare, something like that. So now I'm going to open this folder with VS Code or the IDE of your preference. And then I'm going to bring this over to the screen. Let me put my browser to the left and have this one on here and that there. Perfect. So in order to get started, we are going to first create a new file with the requirements or the libraries that we need in order to build the project. Before we do that, really quick, if you make sure you have, if you're using Visual Studio Code, in the extensions, just search for an extension called Python in here. And it should be the Python by Microsoft. So this one. So that way you have all the support that you need for the language inside of Visual Studio Code. So I already have that. I don't need to click on install. You just have to click there and you should be good to go. And you can go back to the file explorer here. So now let's go in here and we're going to create a new file. We're going to call this requirements.txt. And let's wait for this to finish up in there. Good. So now in this file, we're going to list the libraries that we need in order to build this project. So we just need Streamlit, which is going to help us with the UI. And then we need Groq. Q, like so. So now that we have the requirements file, we can close that up, and we can hold Control-Shift-P on our keyboard, and you can search for Python : create environment. So we can create a virtual environment for this project. Click there, and then click on the first option, VENV. And then you're gonna pick the latest Python version you might have. If you just have one, you can just pick the one you have. Select the requirements.txt file so it can install all the dependencies that we listed there, and go ahead and click OK. Now this is going to take maybe a minute or two, depending on your internet speed. It's going to create the virtual environment, so that way we have a safe container where we are going to build this application. So it says installing packages. Still installing. It's taking a little bit longer this time. Let me pause here. All right, so now the virtual environment is created. We have that new folder here. We don't need to do anything in here. We just need to create a new file. We're gonna call it app.py. And this is where we're going to build our application. So just so I don't forget later on, I'm going to create a new file. I'm gonna do the .git ignore. Git ignore. There you go. So to tell Git to ignore the .venv, just in case, and then also our secrets.toml file that we're going to create later, so that way I don't forget and don't push this to GitHub by mistake. And I'm going to go ahead and close that up. So now let's start building the UI. First thing we're gonna do is import our Streamlit library. So we're gonna say, let's do import Streamlit as st for sure. And the first thing we're gonna do, we're going to add a quick title so we can run the application and see it. So we're gonna do st.title. And then for this title, we're gonna say compare AI models, or let's keep it there. Let's open a new terminal. You can click on the three dots here, terminal, new terminal. And then in your terminal, we're going to run the Streamlit command in order to run the application. Is this ready? Okay, here we go. So let's type Streamlit run app.py and press enter. That is going to run the development server and is going to open up the application on your browser. And here we can see we have the title. So in here, we can keep this title for now. If we hover over this, we see there's a little anchor here. If we don't want the anchor, we can say anchor, set it to false. And then once I save, right behind here at the top, you can click where it says always run or always rerun. So that way the server will refresh the browser for you, and we can see the changes here. We don't have to refresh every single time. So now we no longer see that anchor because we set it to false. Now let's add a subheader by saying st.subheader. And then for the subheader, we're just going to say something like compare AI models side by side. Something like that. Perfect. So for this one, if we hover over that, we see the anchor. Let's take that anchor off as well. Anchor false. And also let's add a divider. And for the divider, we're going to, let's do a color of blue and go ahead and save it. And now we have this line, this horizontal row or divider in blue color. They have different colors in here. And by the way, if this is the first video you watch, we can go to Streamlit, to the documentation here. And then you can see, let me close this up. You can see in the documentation, you have the API reference. And in the API reference, you have all the different methods that you can use. st.write will allow you to write something to the app. You also have like title that will create a title, a subheader. You have for text, you have markdown, title here, the one we're using, header, subheader. So you can have all of these in there, caption, code blocks, everything is in here for you. So you can use the documentation in order to help you with things that you don't know. But we're going to continue now building a little bit more of the UI. I actually want to work on the sidebar a little bit. So in here, I'm going to do a comment. Let's do the sidebar in here. And for the sidebar, we're going to do st.sidebar. And then we're going to add, let's change a .markdown. So we can show a h2. So with quotes, 2 hashes, and then we're gonna say parameters in here. Go ahead and save. Now we can see the sidebar. We have this h2 here using markdown. And then we're going to go down. Let's put a little divider here as well. We can do the sidebar again because we want to add something to the sidebar. That divider, save it. We have a divider there. You can also pass like color to this, but that color is fine for this one there. Now we want to show a slider in order to get the parameter of the temperature, something similar to like the Groq playground where they have a slider here for the temperature. We're gonna do something similar to this. So let's go ahead and add that too down here. We're going to actually store that value inside of a variable called temp, short for temperature. And then we can say st.sidebar, that slider, because we want to add a slider. And then the title in quotes, we're going to say temperature. Temperature. And then in here we can pass the value. So we're going to start at 0.0 all the way up to 1. Go ahead and save that, and let's go back to the app. We have our temperature here, and if we want to set a default value, we can say value, and then we can do 0.7. So we can start at 0.7, but the user can move this around to pick any value from 0 all the way up to 1. That's how the temperature normally works. Now we're also going to add the max tokens option. So new variable max tokens equals to st.sidebar. Let's do another slider. And then for this one, we're going to do max token. Tokens. And then here, max tokens could start from 0 tokens all the way to 8,192, which is the same ones we have in Groq here. So if we open this up here, we can see max token could go all the way up to, depending on the model here, is a little bit 32,000, but we can keep this 8,000 here as the ones we're going to use for hours, because that way we can keep it to work with different models. So let's keep it to this value here. And then normally we want to set a value here to be around, what is this M here? To be around 1024, which is normally the default value that we use. So let's put a little space there. Now let's do a toggle to see if the user wants to stream the results. So let's do stream equals to st.sidebar and then dot toggle, and then the toggle is going to say stream, and we're going to set the default value to true. So just like in ChatGPT, when you pass a prompt, you normally see the text being added like a typewriter, like line by line. So this will have the same effect in here as well. So the user can turn that on and turn that off if they want. Now let's do the JSON underscore mode. So that way the user have the option to add or to turn on JSON mode if they want the response to be in JSON format instead of regular text. So let's do st.sidebar and then dot another toggle. And here we're gonna say JSON mode, and then the value will be false for this one, the default value, because normally that is not what we want right away, only when we need to. Now down here, let's just do another header. Let's do an h3 of st.sidebar, that markdown, and then here we're gonna pass 3 hashes for an h3, and we're gonna say advanced parameters, like so. And down here we're gonna do, let's do a divider too. Let me just copy this down, move this down, so I type less, and then after the divider, let's save it, and then we're gonna have the tab underscore p equals to, let's do another slider, so st.sidebar slider tab p, and for the tab p we're going to start at 0.0 comma all the way up to 1, and then default value will be 0.1 for this one. Now we also have the step sequence, which we also added in the previous video, and then we're going to set that equals to st.sidebar text input. So for this one, we want a text input where the user can pass any step sequences or any word that the user wants to tell the model to stop generating text if they see this specific character or word that we pass in here. Cool. So we're pretty much done with the sidebar and all the different parameters that we need in order to build the playground, which you've seen before if you watched the previous video. But now let's go down here and we're going to start building into the main page here. So we can actually close the sidebar here. We can reopen that if we want to, but let's hide it for now. So that way we only focus on the next part of the application. So here, let me have another message here. Here we're gonna do the session data, which we only need to keep the messages in the session state, so that way we don't lose any messages if the user like changes the temperature or picks another model. We don't lose the text that's already in the conversation. So we're gonna check if, in quotes, we're gonna say model underscore a underscore messages is not in st.session state. If it's not there, we're gonna go ahead and initialize it, st.session state, and then we're going to say dot model underscore a underscore messages is going to be equal to an empty list. So remember, we're gonna have two models, model A and model B, right? Just like we should, like I show you here, model A and model B. So the messages for model A is going to be stored here inside of this parameter. And then we're going to, let's just copy this down. And we're going to do the same for model B. So if model underscore B messages is not, we're going to go ahead and create it. Right, so we have two different lists, one for the messages for model A and this for model B. Cool, so we're gonna fill those in a second. Let me hide the terminal here so I can show you more of the code in here. So what we're gonna do next, actually, let me just show you that object here. Let's do a print statement of st.session state. Let's put a message here or another string and say, caps session state. Go ahead and save that. And if we look at the terminal now here, we can see session state is a dictionary or an object with the parameter model underscore B messages and model A messages, and they both an empty list right now. Cool. This one is the session state. And now let's continue with the UI. So for the UI, which is going to be rendered here, let's go ahead and do here. Let's do model or models UI. And let's do an SD that markdown so we can have an H2 here. And just say models. Let's have next. We want to add now this two select boxes where we can select the different models. So we're gonna go in here, and I want to keep everything in two columns. So everything for model A will be like on the left side, model B will be on the right side. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna create two columns, and I'm just gonna call them column A, comma, column B. It's going to be equal to SD dot columns, and we can create two columns by just passing two here. And then to add something inside of column A, we can say with column A. So we can say it inside of that context, and we can say SD dot let's do a select box, and then the select box is going to say model A. Go ahead and save that. It's missing one position argument option, so yeah, we need to pass the options here before we can render that. And the options is going to be a list of different values that the user can choose from. So the models that we're going to add for this one is going to be llama 3 llama 3 dash AB dash 8192, which we used before. If I save that, we can see that is the only one we have there. And we can choose the different ones we have here. So I can actually choose that one right here, right? So we can use that one, and then you can add any other models from here, but you're just gonna add 3, which are going to be 3 very different ones. So that way we have 3 models, but feel free to add all the models that are available there. And then, well, that works well with this app actually, because there's different ones in there. Then we're also gonna add the Mixtral, the model dash AX 7B dash 32768. Mixtral dash AXB 3268, and then one more, which is a Google one, which is Yama 2.9b dash it. Go ahead and save that. Double check here. We had the 3 there. Let me double check the name. Because if you do a spelling mistake here, you're gonna get an error saying we don't know this model. And these names are not very easy. Well, they're very easy to make a mistake, but not easy to remember. So that's fine, we can keep that there. And actually, the value that the user picks from here, we want to keep it in the session state, but we're just going to initialize the variable here, or the property inside of the session state. And we're just going to save it in st, that session state. And then we're gonna do square brackets, quotes, and then we're gonna call this one model underscore A. And then we just need to assign it here. So now here on the fly, we're creating a new property called model A inside of the session state with the value that the user picks here. And actually by default, I want to pick the one here at index 0. So we're gonna say index 0 to be the default value here, which is gonna pick llama 3 here. Now we're gonna do the same for the column B. So I'm going to copy this down, right? And then this is gonna be for column B. And actually we just need to change in here, model underscore B is going to be equal to one of these here. And we can just keep the same index in here. Let's see here. So we have a multiple select box element with the same auto-generated ID. Fixes replace, right, a key argument. So it looks like, let me see. If I refresh this, let me see if we do need to add this or not. Yeah, so it looks like we need, they look identical. So it looks like we need to set a key property here. And let's say this one is going to be, let's just add a number. And let's do the same here. Let's say key and then 1. Let's see if this works. Let's click on always rerun here again so we can refresh it. And there we go. Okay. So now they have a different key so that way they can identify each one of the select boxes better. So now if we click on this, we have the 3 models here and the 3 models here. I'm gonna keep it at index 0 so the user can just select whatever they want here, but feel free to like change it to like 1. And that way you have 2 different models in here right away, which should be a good user experience too if you already have that selected. So could be 1. Oh, not the key. Why am I doing that? Is this, I mean 2 here, that's good, whatever you want in there, right? I'm just gonna keep it in there, just so that way I don't have to keep switching, but this is up to you. Cool, so now we have the 2 different models in there, and let me just kind of like break this down into like another line, so it could be easier to read. Like so. Maybe that's easier to see. I think so. So you can see it better. Because everything in one line, sometimes it's harder to see what's going on. And one more here. There we go. Oh, good. So now we have the two columns that are going to allow you to select the model. And remember that value, we're going to have it available inside of the session state, which we can just bring this down and paste it here. So we can see the terminal here. And you can see we have model B messages, model A messages, we have model B, and we have model A as well. Model A has llama, which is this one. Model B have Mixtral, which is this one here. You might also see the keys here added, which we can remove later, but for now, let's just keep them here just in case we get the error again. We have this key 1, which we added here, and key 2. But we can ignore that for now. Shouldn't be a problem. It's just being added automatically. So let's keep the session state mess here. I'm actually going to bring this down here. So that way we can check what the values in the session state a little bit later with all the information we have here. Let's delete some of these empty lines. And that looks good. Cool. So now that we have the models, we are going to build the kind of like the chat section here. So let's do here the chat UI. Chat UI, like so. And we're gonna go ahead and start with 2 columns again, because I want to keep the messages from model A and model B in their respective columns. So we're gonna say, let's do, let's just do column 1 and column 2 here. So we don't need to create any crazy long variable name. Let's do st.columns. And then here we're going to create 2 more columns, because this we're not really going to use this name too much. All we need to do is basically add the with statement here. So we're going to do a with column 1, and then to column 1, actually, let's see. First, we need to do, let me see, let's keep it here first. Let's save. Let's have a divider here. Let's have a quick divider, st.divider. All right. So in here, let's see how we're gonna do this here. We got the message here, a container. We're gonna create a container inside of column 1 and a container inside of column 2, and then the prompt at the bottom. That's what we're gonna do. So let's go back here and let's go ahead and do the with statement, and then column 1 dot container here, and then colon, and then we're going to do, let's just do a st.write, just to put some text in here. Let's say column 1. And then we're going to do the same, copy this down. And then we're going to do the same for column 2. Okay, so they're here. So this divider, yeah, that's fine. They're being rendered here. let's put the divider before the columns. There we go. That looks better. So column 1 and column 2, right raster, yeah, because we need a separation between the select boxes and the 2 columns with the messages here. Cool. So to each container here, let's do a border of true. So we can show the border here. And also let's do a height of like 500. We can start there. Maybe a little too big, but let's start there. Let's do the same here for border true, and then height of 500. Cool. All right, not bad. Now we need to share or build the prompt or the input for the prompt. So let's see what we're gonna do here. So we're gonna need, let's see, if we do right under these 2 columns, we can do a if statement. So that way we initialize a variable called prompt, and we can keep the value. We do colon equals, and then we're going to do an st.chat underscore input. And then in here, let's just type prompt to display that. And then colon. And then here, we're just going to print prompt. All right, so we got the text input there. Let's open the terminal, and let's say write a poem, and press enter. We got the text in there. Cool. So we have the chat input, which is another component in here that allows you to build chatbots super quickly somewhere in here that you can find. And we used this one before to build the different chat inputs. So you have many different things in here. Trying to find it is somewhere down here. Somewhere. Oh, chat elements in here. You have the chat input, chat message, status, and a stream to stream the response as well. And I think we're gonna use all 4 of these for this app. But cool. So when we get the prompt in here, right? We just don't want to print it. We want to add this to the 2 different model A messages lists and model B messages lists. So in order to do that, let's just create, let's start by, let's add the prompt, let's add a quick function here. Let's do a function somewhere around here. Let's say helpers in here. And let's define, so def a new function called handle underscore user underscore prompt. And this one is going to receive the new prompt, or the prompt, doesn't matter. And then here, what this function is going to do, let's say this function adds the user's prompt as a user's message, which is going to be a dictionary that we're going to build inside here. So let's add this to the 2 lists that we already have created here by doing st.session_state, and then we're going to do square brackets, quotes, model underscore a underscore messages, and then dot append, and then parentheses. I'm gonna press enter here, and then we're gonna create a dictionary, which is gonna have the row set to user, because this is a user message, and a content property set to the new prompt, like so. So this is what we adding to the list of messages, and then I'm going to copy this down, and I'm going to do the same for model B. That's it. So that function is, its purpose is just to add the new prompt with this new message dictionary inside of each of the model messages that we have initialized here. Now, in order to call this function, let's go ahead and, instead of printing here, let's just call it by calling handle user prompt and pass the prompt. So that prompt is going to go in here as a new prompt, so we can build a message and add it or append it to each one of the model messages. So right now, if we look at the terminal here, and if we add a new prompt, write a poem, and press enter here, we can see, okay, I think the console, the print here, so the way here, let's just copy this down here. Whoops. Down here. Save it. Click terminal here. Okay, so now we see the session state model A messages has a new message in here, write a poem, and then the same for model B messages here has a new message inside. So they're being added. Now it's time for us to, let's just put some space here, keep that down there, and let's render the messages inside of each one of the columns. So we can define another quick function up here. Let's define a function called render underscore messages, like so. And for this function, we want to pretty much loop over the messages for each one of these models, model A, model B. And let's just accept the model that we want. So either model A or model B. And then let's just access the model. So we're gonna pass in here as a string, we can pass like model underscore A, which is gonna be this side, or model underscore B for this side. So let's do a variable called model underscore messages. So that way we can just accept a string, and we can just concatenate model plus the string underscore messages. We can do that very simple. So we're gonna build something like model underscore A, and then we're gonna append underscore messages. So this is what we are concatenating together. So this part, we're expecting it to be passed here for model A and for model B. So now we want to loop over the array or the list of messages, and we want to only do that if the length is greater than 0. And then we're going to pass we're going to check if st.session state square bracket, and then we're going to pass models messages, which is going to be either model A messages or model B messages. If the length is greater than 0, then we want to do a for loop here. And we're going to grab each message inside of st.session state, and then square brackets model messages. And for each message, we want to render a chat message UI. So we're going to say we're going to do a with statement. We're going to render a st.chat message. And we're going to look at the row. So we're going to do parentheses. We're going to look at the message, square brackets row, to know if it's an AI message, a system message, or user message. But we want to dynamically look at the row. And then we're going to, inside of that chat message, we want to actually put the text or the actual content. And we're going to do an st.write for this one. And we're just going to pass message, square brackets, content. Right? Because we're saving the row, which is either user, and then we're going to have the assistant message, which is going to be the response from the API. And then the content is the actual prompt that the user typed. So now that we have this render messages in here, we can now go down to the two columns, column 1 and 2. We can delete the st.write. We can now just call render messages, and we can just pass here model underscore A for this column. Copy this down, delete this, model B for this one, and save it. Now we have, let's say session state has no key model A messages. Did you forget to initialize it? Maybe there's some typo here. Okay, mode, I put mode. Model, what happened here? See what happens when you copy and paste code? You get 2 errors in one. There you go, model A, model B. Now, this string that we pass here is gonna go in here, right? And we concatenate that with underscore messages, and then we just store that in this variable, and we can just access the messages in the session state for model A and model B. Now we can see it in the UI, write a point, and we add in the same prompt for the 2 different models, for Llama 3 and Mixtro in this example. Cool, so let's add another one. Let's say write a haiku. Cool, it's being added. Perfect. Now we have taken care of the user prompt. The prompts are being added to the messages list. Now it's time to work on the AI messages, where we're now going to send our messages to the Groq API to pass it to Llama or to Mixtro, and then it can generate a response, and then we add the response back to the messages, and we display that here. So notice here we have like little user icon, which is the default if the row for the chat messages user. We're gonna get a different one for the AI or for the AI or assistant message. So let's work on that. So in here, we're going to start by, let's see in here, we have the prompt, We get the prompt, we add the prompt to the messages. Good. Now we are also want to get a completion, right? When we send the prompt to the model, we get a completion back. So we're gonna create a function for that. So let's see. So let's create the function right under this one here. Let's define a new function called get underscore completion. We're going to accept the model that we want to use. And then here we're going to start defining the function. So let's see this function. What is this function supposed to do? So this function, pretty much the function will create a completion from the Groq API using the model, the messages, and the parameters. Cool. Let's keep that in there. That doc stream in there for just for reference. I think we can keep that in the same line. Yeah, that's not too long. That's fine. We can keep it there. So we're gonna have a try statement here, and we want to in this function is where we're going to use Groq. So for Groq, before we can actually even try something here, let's just say pass in here for now as a placeholder. We need to scroll all the way up, and we need to say from Groq, we want to import the Groq class here. Now let's go right after this and say client equals Groq, capital G Groq. And in order for this to work, we need to pass the API key. And we haven't set the API key yet, so we're gonna need to open this up, create a new folder, and for this folder we're gonna call it .streamlit. I click on file, so let me click here in folder, .streamlit, and inside of the Streamlit, rename Streamlit. Inside of that folder, right click, new file. Let's create our secrets.toml in order to keep our secrets and add the API key here. So in here, we need to set a environment variable of Groq underscore API underscore key, and then set that equals to quotes. And this is where we're gonna go into our Groq cloud. And then if you bring this all the way up, you're going to have a API key menu here where you're going to be able to create a new API key. You can click create new API key and give the name of your new API key. And I like to name my API keys by the project that I'm working on. So you can call it something like Chatbot. I don't know, caps, but Chatbot dash compare. And I'm going to click on submit so we can create the new API key. And once you have your new API key, make sure to keep them safe. Don't share your API keys. You're going to go and paste it inside of the quotes here, which I'm going to do now, and save this file. All right, now that I have saved the file, I can now go back to my app file here, and we can set that the API key, API underscore key, is going to equals, and we're going to access the API key through the st.secrets and then the name of the API key, or we can use the .get function, and we can pass the name here, which is Groq underscore API underscore key, and go ahead and save the file. Now make sure this name is spelled the same as in the secrets file in here, so that way we don't get any errors. If you see any API errors about the key, make sure you have everything spelled the same way. And it needs to be this name in here, all caps. Cool. So now we're ready to work with this client. So now that we have the client, we're going to scroll all the way back down to our get completion function. And then in here, let's have a try statement now. And then we need to access all the messages. So let's do model underscore messages again equals to, and then let's concatenate or access the messages from the session state square brackets model plus model is this model here, and then plus the underscore messages, so we can access that here. And then we're going to use the client now. So here's where we'll be making the API call by, let's create a variable called completion. And we're going to set that equals to client, right? The client is completion equals client. So client, remember, is our Groq client that we initialize here. And then we can use the chat completions with an S and then create. Parentheses here, and then here we can pass all the different parameters that we have, and we're going to start with the model, and the model is going to be either model A or model B. And if we look at our state session state, remember we have a variable, a property called model B and model A with the model we want to use, right? So model B mixed row and model A should be llama in here somewhere. So all we need to pass here is st.session state square brackets model, and then when we call this function, we're going to pass either model underscore A or model underscore B again. Next, put a comma here, and then we can pass the messages. And we can pass the messages by saying model messages here, because we already built the name in here using this concatenation here. So we pass in the model messages there. We're going to pass the string if we want the string option, and we pass this is the option here, and then we just need to pass the value that we have here, which is initially true. That comes from this toggle in here. So we're gonna pass that in here. Same variable name, stream. Now we can also pass the temperature, and we have the same temp when we have temp. right? That's what we call it here. Temp. We can also pass, what else we got? We have the max token. So max underscore tokens is going to be equals to max tokens as the same name. We also have the response format, which is going to be if it's a JSON format or not. And here we're going to do we need to pass an object here. And again, if you want to look into this, you can go into Groq again, go to the documentation, go to where is the completion? Speech text. Integration. Oh no, API reference here. Create chat completion. And then you can see the same call that we're doing, right? In here, they provide the endpoint and then the different properties, the max tokens, the messages, which is required, the model is required. Everything else is optional, but since we have a playground where we have all those values, we can pass it to. But these are optional. With the stop, we're gonna do it now. Stream, temperature, and everything else should be here. So we're gonna continue here with the response format, which that's what I wanted to show you here. The response format, which I passed somewhere here. It needs to be a dictionary with the type JSON underscore object if we want the response in a JSON object, and the default is text. So we're gonna do a little bit of a ternary operator here inside of this here. We're gonna say that the type is going to be JSON object if JSON mode is true, else we want the dictionary to say type colon text. Go ahead and save that. Put a comma here. Don't worry about this. We almost done with this. We need a try. We need a catch statement, or a what is it called? Except or finally. Right after the try, we almost there. Let's set the tab underscore p to tab p, and that is also here, right? If we go back in here and search for the tab p, I think I saw it at the bottom. So tab P, an alternative to sampling with temperature, called the nucleus sampling, where the model considers the results of the tokens with tab P probability mass. And then you have more information here. Tab P, we can set it here. And then the final one is the stop sequence. So stop equals to, what do we call it here? Stop sequence, or SEQ for sure. So we not only pass in the model and the messages, which are required, we pass in the string, temperature, max token, response format, tab P, and stop sequence as well, so we can build this nice playground. Now, from the completion response, we're going to now continue here, and let's just have a fset block here so we can actually see something. Exception, and then as E here, we're just going to print the exception or the error, and if we want to show it to the UI, we can say st.toast, and then show in a string format. We pass E. We can also set a icon here. So if we hover over that, we can see we have like icon in here. And if we want to set an icon, we can set an icon. And then from the documentation here, we can search really quick for toast, go here. So we can still one of these icons here. Let's still steal this one here. We can pass pretty much anything you want in there. All right, so I forgot to put except here. In here, that's good. So now we should be able to go back and see everything back in here. So right now we are making the call here. It's out of the try. Now we need to show the response, right? We're going to have to now add the message to the messages list and stream the response to the UI. So here, let's create a variable called full_response, just like we did in previous projects. Initialize to an empty string so we can concatenate like the streams of the messages or the chunks of the response that we're gonna get. And then we're gonna say if stream is true, because we only want to do this if this is true, if we want to stream the message. So if stream is true, put a space here. We want to with st.chat message. We want to now show a assistant message. Come on. I'll type it myself. And then here we're gonna do a placeholder. So let's do a placeholder in here. And let's say this one we're going to initialize it to like an empty container. So st.empty will give us a empty container. And then we're gonna go and grab each chunk. So for chunk in completion, or chunk without this here. So for each chunk that we get from the chunk of text, we want to append it to this full response variable here. So we're gonna do full response plus equals chunk dot choices square brackets 0, and then dot delta dot content or an empty string, because sometimes we get nothing back and we just want to handle that by not adding anything if that's the case. Now that we have that chunk, we want to show that chunk. So we're gonna do ph or placeholder dot stream. Is that the name? I forgot. Let's see. Let's look it up in here. Go back here. What is it? Inside of the chat elements. Let's see that again. Chat elements. We want write stream in here. So placeholder that write stream. There we go. And then we're gonna pass the full response. And then we want to, after the for loop, so go down and write at the same level of the for loop here, we can say model messages that append. And then here we want to pass a dictionary with the row set to assistant there you go. And then we want to set the content, in quotes, content, we want to set that to the full response in here. So here we add the response to the list. put a space here. Well, here we just kind of like stream the response to the UI. All right, so we should be able to test this so far if it's a stream, but let me see if it's a stream. So we should be able to go back here, hide this. Stream is true by default. And we could call this function get completion. Now we can call it in each one of the columns. So here we're gonna call get completion for model underscore 8. Copy this down, put it right under that one. Model B in here. All right, so we're getting some messages in here, maybe some errors. We're not completely done, that's okay. Let's give it a quick refresh. And messages minimum number items is 1, type error. Okay, so what's going on now is that we are calling the function right away. Okay, so if prompt, we handle the prompt, render messages, and render messages only rendering if the length is greater than 0, so nothing really happens here. But this one is being called and there's no messages in the array at the initial state. So we'll take care of this in a second. Let's just finish up in here so that way we don't switch tasks like this. So let's keep this here for now. And then let's go ahead and do a else in here. So if stream is false, we want to handle this different. So here we can do a with, we can show a st.spinner in here that will say something like generating ... and then in here. So we want to show a spinner because if we're not streaming the messages or the chunks of messages that the model is generating, this is going to, the user is just going to look at the screen like nothing is happening. So there's no feedback to the user like, hey, we're working on generating something for you. And then we actually show them because everything will be show at once, which is the opposite of streaming, which is just showing chunks of the text while the model is generating it. So in here, we're going to do a placeholder for this one too. And let's do an empty container in here. And then we're going to just write the response to that placeholder. So let's do placeholder that write. And then we're going to pass the completion that choices. And this one square brackets that's 0. And then this one is that message because this is all I want, that content. And then we go into append. We're going to say model messages that append parentheses. And here we're going to pass a dictionary with the row of assistant and the content with the completion that choices. So we're gonna just repeat this here. That's fine. Copy that, put it here. We don't need it anywhere else. Go ahead and save that, and we should be good to go. Cool. All right, that looks good. That's everything we need to do here. In here. By the way, if you want to know where to find the message or the complete message or the chunks, you will have to look into the API reference again. Chat completion. If you scroll down, I think this here is yeah, this is the completion object. And then you have that, what is it that we do? That completion dot choices. So where did it go now? Completions dot choices. This is a list. Square brackets 1 will give you this object. That message. That content right here. Cool. So let's see. Let's test this out. Let's see if we get any errors. Let's just do a quick refresh. We get some messages minimum require 1. We'll take care of that in a second. That's fine. Now, if we do a write a poem just for testing. Okay, so expected generator. Okay, so this is the streaming is giving us a error right now. Let's test with the stream false and let's, oh, okay, here we go. Okay, so we are getting the response. It's just that streaming the response is not working completely. Let's refresh it really quick. Let's make sure this is true. So let's turn off the stream option there. Close this up. And then let's say write a poem again. Okay. Cool. So, okay, that, it was kind of fast. We didn't see the spinner saying generating. It should show it like at the top here. But maybe because it was kind of fast, it's just showing the response right away. So right now we can see 2 different poems from Llama and from Mixral in here. And we can compare the responses from our prompt in here. See which one maybe give you better poems or better anything that you want the model to generate for you or the models. Cool. So let's continue working with the streaming part. And let's see what to do next here. So we got the completion taken care of. We're calling this here. Now, because this is being triggered right away, that's why when we refresh, we see these messages here because that function is being called with we're getting a 400 back because the messages need something in there. We don't have anything at the initial when we first render the app. So let's just do a quick fix for that in here. So let's put, so if we don't have a prompt, so this is if we have a prompt, we're going to handle this. And that's why this is being called here. Render has a if statement to only run if it's greater than 1. So we can do kind of like something similar for get completion. So let's actually add the, in here, after we get the prompt, let's have the sd.session stay here. Hold on to the prompt just in case we need prompt. In the session state, let's put the prompt that we're getting from the user. And let's also add a new flag inside of the sd.session and say, call this one new prompt. So saying, hey, we got a new prompt, but let's do underscore prompt here. And let's set that to true, right? We can do that. So if we get a prompt, we store in the prompt in the session state here, so we can keep it. And then the new underscore prompt is going to be a flag that is going to tell us, hey, we got a new prompt in here. So with that, we can do let's do an else statement here. Else, we can do, let's copy this one down to the else statement. And let's set this to false. I'm thinking when the app first gets loaded, prompt is going to be false. It's going to go into the else statement and it's going to set the new prompt flag to false. So now with this, we can check here that if session state or SD, that session state dot new underscore prompt. If we got a new prompt, then we want to call this function. I don't need this dot here. So only if this is true, only if we got a new prompt in here, we want to call this function. Else is going to be set to false, so that's not going to run. So let's copy this here. Let's do the same for this one. Let's go here and indent that inside of the if statement. So now let's reload the page here. Okay, now the function calls don't get triggered right away because this is false, so it's not gonna go. But now if I do add a new prompt, let's just turn the stream off. And let's say write a Twitter post or X post. Let's go ahead and hit enter. Okay, I didn't give it a lot of information. I just said write a Twitter post. And then the response we got back is in here. Here's a sample Twitter post. And it goes in here. Now here, just the Twitter post, some hashtags in there included with that. Okay, that's cool. So right now that's working fine. The only thing I'm noticing here is that here we got the user message, but here we're just writing it. So maybe I did something wrong inside of the else here. Spinner, placeholder that writes. So yeah, if we just write something to the placeholder outside of it, I'm not saying just like I did here, chat message, I'm not doing that here, so it's not gonna show us that inside of that. So let's go down here. Oh no, let's go before. So that could be inside of these contexts. So with sd.chat message, and here we want a system message, and then let's highlight all of this here maybe, and just indent it. So hit press tab, go ahead and save. Let's refresh. Go here, close this up. Wait, no, let's turn this off. Go here. And let's say, write a Twitter post about AI. Cool. All right. There we go. Now it's inside of a assistant message here. And we have the user one. So now we can compare Llama 3 to Mixtro to see the writing skills, right? The generation of Twitter posts. So AI is changing the game from revolutionizing healthcare to transforming customer service, blah, blah, blah. Hashtags in here. And excited to see continued progress of artificial intelligence, its potential to so blah, blah, blah. Pretty good. Both of them. Some hashtags in there as well. Cool. So I think both are doing a good job right now. So now let's do another quick refresh. And let's see if we can take care of the stream error here that we're getting. So let's say we keep the stream on. And let's say write a Twitter post about AI again. About AI. We'll stream. Let's see what happens here. So we're getting this error here. SD write stream expects a generator or a stream-like object as input, not a string. Please use us to write in here. Okay, so it looks like the value that we're getting back is not what we're expecting. We need a generator or a stream-like object as an input, not a string. All right, let's look into that here. So in this section here, we get into chunks. When we pass in the full response, oh, okay, so the full response that we have right now, this is a string because we're concatenating this here. So full response. Yeah, because since we're concatenating this to a string here, when we pass it here, say string. So we need maybe that objects in here. Let's see if that's the case. Let's try something. Let me see. The right stream in here. So let me see. Stream or a stream a generator, iterable or stream like sequence in here. Let's go ahead and go to Groq and go ahead and check the response for the stream. Return a chatbot completion chunks object here. Where is it? Is it this? Or this? Or this? A list of models? No, that's something else. That's not what I'm looking for. Let's go back up here. I think, let me see, I think the object is already a stream. Yeah, I think we're streaming the text already. So returns object or a stream sequence of chat completion chunks. So yes, it's a sequence of chat completions. So for this API, just remember, we just need to use, we don't need the right stream here because this one expects an object. This is already this chunks of text. So we just need to use, let's use a markdown here. Markdown. Let's see how it behaves like this. So let's go back here, give it a refresh, keep the string true, close this down. Let's see how it looks. Right, a Twitter post. Let's just go with any post. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, because I saw the kind of like the chunks of text. It's just really fast, and if it's something longer, we might be able to see it. But this is fine. That is just streaming the chunks itself because that's what is being already returned. So this is all good in here. So now we are, let's see, we're pretty much done with everything we need to build in the application. Let's just review what we have. Let's refresh the application here. Let's do a little bit more testing. So here we have our compare AI models playground, where you can compare AI models side by side. We have two different models. We have all the parameters here. So if we say, let's just start a short conversation. Let's say, hey. And this one say, hey, how's it going? This one has a bit longer response. Let's say we change the temperature to, let's say, tell me a joke. Okay, here's one, blah, blah, blah. Sure, here's a classic programmer joke. Okay, cool. All right. Now if we change, let's say, the temperature all the way down to like 0, or let's bring it all the way up to 1 so it can give us something cool. Who knows? Let's say, tell me another All right. What do you call a fake noodle? A imposter. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, and then here we got a more kind of like programming jokes. Okay, cool. So this seems to be working. Now I know we know this is working. Let's go ahead and test. Let's say the max tokens. Let's put the max token really down so we can see to like even lower 171. Let's say write a sure or let's do write a long essay about AI. And let's see, because we put the max token to 171, so it's not gonna have enough tokens set to for a long essay. So we're gonna see that the response might be cut off somewhere. Okay, so if we see here, has an instrumental and then it calls off, and then it calls off here too. So maybe when it reached the 171 tokens, it stopped because that's what we said here. But if we just bring it all the way up again, let's just keep it to around that 1000 mark, around there. And then did it continue? Oh no, that's the same one. Write a long essay about AI. Send that. Okay, there we go. There you go. There you go. There you go. Okay, cool. So it looks like this one was able to finish. This one, I think it was still generating the long one. So it looks like this mix row has a lot of text for each one of the response. Even when we say, hey, it was like really long. If you go all the way up, we can see this one was pretty short, but then this one, the hello message was kind of long. So yeah. Now let's test if we can switch over. So what happens if we have this response here? So here, the way we build this is that we keep in the messages. So even if you switch models here, you can keep the conversation. So we go to this here. Let's say, let's ask who created you. So now the response for this one says, the team here at Google DeepMind, which is indeed who created this model, Gamma 2 in here. Now for Mixro, it says Mixro by this company here from France. Cool. So now let's switch this to Llama. Let's ask the question again. Who created you? This one says, I was now created by Meta because this is Llama. And here we got the response. And then here, it has kind of like the same response or very similar to the previous one. Let's ask now a follow-up prompt for the essay. So let's say, summarize the essay into bullet points. I'm not gonna say how many, just tell it to do bullet points. All right, so now as we see, this went back to Llama, but we can switch it to like another model. But we're continuing in the conversation because we're keeping the whole entire conversation, even if we switch to different models here. And we were able to get the essay summarized into bullet points in here. Now let's switch the model again. Let's switch this one too. Let's go to Llama for this one now. And let's say, create a quiz to help me learn. Create a quiz from the essay to help me test my understanding. All right, let's compare the two. Based on the quiz essay, we notice we have a different model instructions, and then we have which of the following is not mentioned in significant application of AI. Then you have multiple choice here. This one looks like it also did a good job with multiple choices in here as well. Now let's ask them one more time. Who created you to see the current model? And this one, Meta, Llama 2, that matches. And this one, Google. So I was created, that was freely known as Facebook. Okay, blah. So you got a little different response, but that's okay. We'll not 100% guarantee that we always get the same one. If we ask the same questions, that's fine. So I think it's pretty good. I think it's working. It's keeping the messages in here. And we can test different models. You can change the parameters. So this is a pretty good playground for us to test our prompt engineering skills to make a comparison between different models. And again, you can look for different models that are available inside the Groq playground from the API, so you can add more. It's a challenge. You can maybe create a reset button to like reset the messages back to like an empty list, so that way we can clear up what we have here. Is that something that we want to do? But I think we are pretty much done. So this is everything we need to do. If we later want to deploy the application, all we need to do is, well, we have a video on that, so we pretty much can just follow the same video in this series to deploy the application. Nothing really has changed. We have the same dependencies, the same environment variable here that we need to add, and the requirements are pretty much the same for the previous video. So I hope you learned something new from this one. Use this to show it to your friends, employers, in interviews, to something that you build, and also use it for A/B testing your prompt engineering skills, so you can try it out different models at the same time. So I hope you like this one. I will see you in the next video.